Greetings. If you are joining me tonight, welcome. I haven't been on here in a couple of weeks. A lot been happening. And if you are following me, then you know that I've been traveling a little bit. I had the opportunity to attend a wonderful, wonderful festival in LA on Sunday called the Soul and Sound Festival in partnership with blavity.org, and it was just so powerful, so inspiring. And so, yeah, I've talked about it all week, and so you can check out some of my posts, some of the pictures. I'll also share the website of both organizations because I think it really is important that we support events like this that are transformational, that are inspiring, that shows just a whole new way of being in relationship with each other, being in community. And so that is what it was all about for me, the opportunity really to be in community with like minded people, to learn more about how to transform and uplevel my business. And so, yeah, it was just a great time. And so I'll give you all a few minutes to drop in if you're joining me. I'll also share this link if you want. I use Restream, and so therefore I can see comments from both YouTube and Facebook, and so and it allows me to go live at the same time in both places without having two different cameras or two different setups. So I'm going to go to the Facebook group now and just post that link if you are interested in having your name come up on the comments. And 1 second. And then after I post that link, we're going to get started because we have quite a bit to talk about tonight. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be back on this space, in this space, doing a live. I have missed you all. And so let me just give me a minute. I am not very good at multitasking. Yeah. Multitasking is overrated, especially once you get past 50. And so I'm going to put that link. I'll just say, here's the link if you want to share comments um, with your name. Okay, you want to share in the chat box. So now I'm going to get off of there and just see if anybody joined. If you are joining me, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you all back here in this space for another Wellness and Wisdom Wednesdays. And yes, I can finally say that now. It used to give me so much problems trying to say it. So let me check the chat, see who's joining. A few people are joining. So welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight. You could be anywhere, but you are here with me in this live space. And so for that, I am grateful. I'm also very grateful for the topic, what it is that we're going to be talking about tonight. And so if you are joining me live, welcome. If you are joining the rebroadcast, welcome. I know a lot of people tend to look at the rebroadcast a little later. The good thing is that once daylight savings time come, I think I'm going to move the broadcast up a bit because I think that 8 o'clock at night Central Standard Time might be kind of late. For me, it's only 6 o'clock. I'm on Mountain Standard Time, and so it works okay for me. And so I hope you all are really leaning into the change of the seasons. And so, although I live now in Arizona where it is warm, pretty much all the time, there's still a shift. There's a change, and it is cooling off to the point where it is actually comfortable here. Like the summer was brutal, and this was my first summer here, and so people would tell me about how brutal the summers were, but you don't know it until you experience it. And so, yeah, it was really, really brutal. So I'm just overjoyed that the weather is starting to get more comfortable, very, very comfortable. So I'm going to start back my ritual of hiking. Like that's like my thing. And so, yeah, next week I'm going to start my a regiment of hiking twice a week along with my yoga. So those are some of the things that I do to stay grounded and to be able to continue to do this healing work that I do, to go on this healing journey with you all. And so, again, welcome. Thank you for joining. Tonight's topic is going to be all about healing those daddy wounds. And so, if you all were on here or you watched the video a few weeks ago, I did a live about healing our mother wounds. And so, I would be remiss if I didn't have that conversation around what it looks like, feels like, and what it is that we need to do or can be doing to start acknowledging and healing the fact that the vast majority of us, a lot of us, just as most of us have internalized mother wounds, we also deal with internalized and externalized daddy wounds. And so I want to bring that into the conversation tonight. And so, again, if you have any thoughts, any questions, as I am doing my thing, talking about this very deep topic for many of us, then go ahead and just put them in the comments and I will get to the comments. Or you can always tap me a little later. If you want to email me, you can always tap me a little later. So, with that said, let's get started. So, again, I think it was about 3 weeks ago. I don't think I've been on here for the last 3 weeks, but we were building upon acknowledging and healing our mother wounds. And so tonight, as we begin to talk about the daddy wounds, we're going to dive into what they are. We're going to dive into how to acknowledge them and really go a little bit deeper so we can understand how it begins to show up and manifest in our lives. And so last week, well, when I did the conversation on mother wounds, I talked about how deep and how those wounds adversely impact every aspect of our lived experiences and of our relationships. Well, those daddy wounds, they hit just as hard, but in different ways. And so daddy wounds impact us. They tend to impact us more psychologically. So we begin to mentally and emotionally invalidate and devalue ourselves. And we begin to mistrust others when we are well, the way that daddy wounds tend to manifest themselves. And so these wounds tend to place us constantly on the defense. And so they harden us, they kind of desensitize us, and it contributes to our lack of self esteem and self confidence. It makes us, again, very rigid, very defensive. And this is for both men and women alike. I'm not just speaking to women, I'm speaking to men as well, because a lot of men harbor daddy wounds or are dealing with daddy wounding. And so, why is it that we become kind of cold and desensitized, really defensive when we're dealing with daddy wounds? And the reason for that is because daddy is our protector, he is our defender, he is our most valid or most fierce supporter. He is that first person outside of our mamas that actually sees us and demonstrates demonstrates his love for us through protection, through validating us, through supporting us. And so, how he views us, it really does, it means the world to us. And again, this is for both men and women alike. We always want to please our fathers. We always want to be the apple of our father's eye. We always want to be the center of attention for our fathers. And so tonight, I want to build upon healing our daddy wounds, acknowledging how these wounds begin to show up in our lives, and how we can begin to heal them. Because and the main reason we want to heal them is so that we don't carry them forward into the next generation. So we don't infect our children and our grandchildren because of our unhealed daddy wounds. And so that's what I want to build upon tonight. So, greetings. I am Kimberly J., spiritual teacher, scholar, activist, master healing intuitive practitioner, and the founder of the Journey to Wholeness Center. And again, I'm welcoming you to Wellness and Wisdom Wednesdays, Ask Kimberly J on Live. And so tonight, I want to hold a sacred healing space. You can call this like a container, the sacred healing space where we can just spend some time together talking about issues, concerns, healings, things that are really applicable to our real lives, so our everyday lived experiences. And so I tell people all the time, I am a spiritualist, but I am not that spiritualist that transcends our lived experiences where everything is just all love and light, because that is just not true. Everything is not all love and light, and healing is fucking hard. And so I want to talk about that. Part of the healing process is being able to acknowledge that we got shit in there that needs to come up so we can look at it and heal it. And then the spiritual part of it is it gives us the tools to integrate. It gives us the tools to transmute the pain, the trauma, the grief, the feelings of unworthiness. It gives us a space and a place, technologies to be able to transmute that and turn it into something positive, and turn it into love, and turn it into wholeness. And so we want to be able to transmute the density of those energies of pain, grief, and trauma. But again, in order to do that, we got to talk about it. And so that's why I have this space, is so we can talk about the hard stuff. So we can talk about the things that we need to talk about, the things that we tend to hide from, our shadows, the things that we tend to suppress. It's time for us to open up. It's time for us to acknowledge. It's time for us to look at it. It's time for us to be courageous, to get in touch with that pain so it can be healed, so we can transmute it. And we transmute it with love and forgiveness and grounding and doing the necessary work that needs to be done, getting the necessary help that we need. And so, as I have started this space now, ever since February, I've been doing these lives ever since February. I'm really a huge proponent, as you all know, of opening spaces with a bit of a grounding, a bit of a meditation, so we can be able to hear with our hearts, to hear with our full body, and not just our ears and our intellect. And so there is a place for rationality, but sometimes that our rational minds can lead us down like this linear path of trying to think through and trying to figure out, versus really dropping down into the body to be able to feel, heal, and release. And so that's one of the reasons why I really like to go, to a place of meditation, to open a space. So we're going to do that again tonight. we are going to ground into our bodies and just kind of feel what's coming up for us. And when we talk about our daddies, or when we share some of our daddy wounding. And so once we do the meditation, as I do every time we're together in this space, I'll just share with you some of my wisdom teachings. And normally these wisdom teachings come through my own personal lived experiences, a lot of the research and scholarship work that I do, and a lot of the work that I do, the one-on-one coaching work that I do with my clients. And so I'm able to kind of coalesce all of those things, and come to you and share with you some of those teachings. And so once I'm done, I'll open a space up. If you have comments or questions or thoughts, we can talk about them right here in the chat box. Or again, we can take it offline and you can just email me. I'm always available, and I'll share all of that information in the comments. And so I invite you, you know, to really center, to find your breath. If you are driving, please do not close your eyes. You can still ground and breathe with me, but just don't close your eyes. All right. And so wherever you are, I invite you to just, take a few moments and settle into your body. And what do I mean by settling into your body? Just allow yourself to get comfortable, open your heart, soften your body, close your eyes. And as you're doing this, begin to draw your awareness to your breath. Just allow your breath to settle you for a bit. Just following its normal ebb and flow. And then take a deep breath in from the belly. Opening the belly, bringing it into your heart, holding it, and then softly exhaling it out. Taking another deep breath in from the belly, bringing it into your heart, and then softly exhaling it out. And taking one more deep breath in from the belly, bringing it into your heart, and then softly exhaling it out. For a moment, just notice how you feel. Notice if your body feels settled, grounded. And now I invite you to visualize your father. Just bring an image of him into your mind's eye. And as you begin to visualize your father, notice what is coming up for you. Notice if your heart begins to race, if you are feeling tightness or constriction or discomfort in any place in your body. Notice if it elucidates any tears. And notice if you feel joy, peace. Just allow yourselves to feel whatever it is that you feel without judgment. Taking another deep breath in, holding it in your heart, softly exhaling it all out as you begin to release your father from your mind's eye. Slowly and compassionately, begin to allow yourself to come back into this space and just notice. Notice how you feel. If there's something that you want to write down, perhaps your father is an ancestor now and he may have had a message for you during that brief grounding. Feel free to write it down so you can revisit it a little later. It's very important. And so, how do you all feel? I know I feel good. I feel a lot more comfortable. Believe it or not, sometimes I get so nervous still. And I think I've probably done about 30 now of these lives, and I still get so nervous in doing these lives. So, anyway, thank you for doing that with me. Thank you. I'm always like, sometimes I feel like, oh, when people are watching these, are they really going to want to meditate? Are they really going to want to be still? If you are grounding with me during these lives, I do thank you because it is giving you the tools that you need. It is giving you the peace and the groundedness and your ability to be more open as we have these discussions so you can truly listen in with your heart. And if it's too much for you or you're not able to ground as you're listening to these, then just try it one time. Just, go back and listen to the rebroadcast and do the grounding and just see how it makes you feel before we have these before we engage in these conversations. And so again tonight, building upon healing the data. Lord, I was doing data. It's so sidebar. I have been analyzing data for the last 2 days. And so that's why data is on my mind. I have finally gotten to the point of my dissertation study where I am dissecting data. And that is all that's on my mind. So daddy is what I'm trying to say. Let's get back to the subject at hand. Daddy wants. And so let's talk about the origin of some of our daddy wounds, which can begin well before we were even born. And so let's say our fathers are abusive, either verbally or physically, to their pregnant partners, um, and or their absentee fathers. And so previously, when I was discussing healing the mother wounds, I stated that the first and most primal relationship a child has outside of the relationship with themselves is to and with their mother by nature of living in her body. Well, the second most primal relationship is that with our fathers. And from the time we are in our mother's womb, we begin to cultivate and develop a relationship with our fathers. And that's through the sound of his voice, his energy, his presence. And so babies feel and experience what their mothers feel and experience while they are in the womb space. And they also are feeling and experiencing what is happening with their fathers, especially if they are in a household or in an environment where their fathers are constantly angry or yelling or are mentally or physically or emotionally abusive to the mother. It really creates this energy, this external energy or this environment of fear and dissonance. And that energy of fear and dissonance, it radiates both to the mother and to the unborn child. And so that child begins to experience their fathers from a place of fear and uncertainty, and it's being compounded. Really it's like it's twofold, because they're feeling the vibration from their mothers, who are upset or hurt or being victimized. And so in the womb, they're feeling her vibration, but they're also feeling and sensing the external vibration that's coming directly from their fathers. And so before that child is even born, they have daddy wounds. Okay. And so what about other instances? So let's say that's not the story or your story. What about abandonment? So abandonment is the source of a lot of daddy wounds. That absentee father, or that fair weather father that kind of comes in and out and kind of blows with the wind. And so again, a child's self-esteem and sense of belonging and sense of purpose and self oftentimes can become damaged by a father that isn't there to protect, to value, and to support their child. And for women and girls, it really creates for them an absentee father, or dealing with a father who has abandoned them. It really creates for within them this deep insecurity, a lot of insecurities. They feel that they are never good enough, they are not pretty enough, they're not secure enough in who they are. And this is all because they never received that external validation from the person that is supposed to validate them and protect them. A lot of girls and women, they feel unprotected, so they're constantly on the defense. So it's that thing that I talked about earlier about being rigid and being defensive. And so as a result, they tend to enter into relationships, toxic relationships, with people that don't validate them, that don't protect them, and that don't support them. Or they enter into relationships with people who take advantage of their low self esteem and their insecurities. And so those women and girls tend to be very fragile, to say the least, until they can do that conscious work that needs to be done to heal. And so let's talk about how it shows up for boys and men. It shows up as them also needing validation, but seeking it in the wrong places. And so these boys and young men, they go through periods of experiencing identity crisis. And as a result, they tend to or are drawn to toxic experiences, other toxic men, gangs, group things that where they feel that they need to prove their manhood or validate their worthiness, because they're not given that or getting that or receiving that from their father. And so these boys, they lack a rites of passage. They lack guidance. They lack support in their journey to manhood. And they too are left unprotected. You know, so they have to learn how to protect themselves. And they often repeat those same patterns of abandonment in their own relationships. And so another way that daddy wounds manifest themselves, or daddy wounds are created, are from authoritarian, I'm tongue tied, y'all, authoritarian controlling fathers. Yes, they create daddy wounds in their children. And these are fathers who don't allow space for their children to be authentically themselves. They're always judging their children, or they want their children to live out their lost dreams and fantasies. And you find that a lot with men and their sons. The men who want their sons to be professional athletes, want their sons to be the next Michael Jordan, want their sons to be the next NFL star. And they put all of this pressure on their sons to be athletes and to be strong and to, be popular. And, I saw that a lot. I was a sports mom. I raised two sons in sports. They both played baseball and basketball for all of their childhood. And every practice, every game, you saw those fathers who were very mentally, emotionally, and physically abusive to their sons who would underperform or who got tired or who missed the shot, who missed, how you missed that in, and they snatching them up and they yelling at them and and they thinking that this is making them stronger, this is making them men, this is what you need to do in order to be a star, that kind of energy. And it's so interesting to witness now that my sons are young men, that they're adults, that these same kids, I ask my boys, well, where are they now? They're not doing anything. They're not in college. They just kind of, no, they didn't make it to the NBA. No, they didn't make it to the NFL. No, they didn't make it to the MLB. And so, but they are damaged. They are harmed. They were abused. All it is so a father can live out his dreams and his fantasies through his son. you know and so how does it show up or manifest within in girls? You have authoritarian and controlling fathers who don't want their daughters to date, don't want their daughters to go out, don't want their daughters to wear certain things. And so that ends up really harming and causing harm and toxicity to girls. Okay. And so another form of wounding that happens is with fathers that um, are abusive, you know, fathers that are mentally, physically, and sometimes sexually abusive to their children. A lot of children live with that. A lot of children have to grow up with that, and it leaves them vulnerable. It leaves them unprotected, and it leaves them to be prey to other abusers throughout their lives. Again, who can pick up on their insecurities, who can pick up on the fact that they probably have been abused because they're suffering from very low self-esteem, poor judgment, an inability to protect themselves. And so the one person, their daddies, their fathers, that should have been there to protect them and to keep them safe, turned out to be their abusers. And so unhealed daddy wounds, they are the source of so many of our toxic relationships, primarily our toxic relationships with ourselves. And they shape and inform our ability to see ourselves as worthy of love, to see ourselves as worthy of support and of protection. And so, how can we begin the journey of really unpacking our daddy wounds so we can heal? So, the first thing, we got to acknowledge that these wounds exist. So very often we gloss past the daddy wounds as if they don't exist. And men are the most notorious for doing this. Rarely do they hold their fathers accountable for their wounding. Far too often, they blame their mothers for their father's failure. They blame their mothers for leaving or divorcing their fathers. They blame their mothers for not protecting them when their father was the person that was the abuser. And so they don't really hold their fathers accountable. They don't have those conversations. Those are really tough conversations and really tough wounds to heal. And so both men and women must give up the notion that anything could have been different in the past and surrender to the fact that in this moment, they are suffering from unhealed daddy wounds. And in order for them to feel validated, to feel reassured, to feel whole again, they got to do the work. They got to do the work to heal those wounds. The second thing is, as adults, we got to stop allowing abusive, absentee, controlling fathers to re victimize us by remaining stuck in those patterns and by punishing ourselves and fueling our own insecurities with toxic people and toxic experiences. And so I ask you, whose responsibility is it to heal your daddy wounds? It's yours. It's not your mama's responsibility, and it's not your daddy's responsibility. It's your responsibility to heal those wounds, and only you can heal them. The damage is done. They can't redo, and so um can they change? Yes, daddies can change, mamas can change, people can change, but that wounding still resides within your body. And so even if you have made amends and now you got a pretty good relationship with them, and if you don't do that conscious work to move that energy, you're going to constantly be triggered. And more so than not, you're going to start taking those daddy wounds and daddy issues out on your own children, on your own partners. And so you got to heal that shit. Only you can heal it, only you can fix it. And so, what does that mean? Seek therapy and counseling if you have to, work with healing practitioners, even divesting from toxic parental relationships if you have to. The third thing, break the cycle. Stop taking your unhealed daddy wounds out on your partners and your children. And so, mamas, stop telling your daughters that men ain't shit, that all men ain't shit because your daddy abandoned y'all and your child's father abandoned you. So stop doing that to your daughters. Okay. And for our sons, stop making excuses for your fathers and stop abandoning your partners and children. Stop it. Your children need you. No matter what the relationship is like with their mother, your children need you. And your children are worth fighting for. And so relationships are complicated. They are very, very complicated. But your relationship with your partner should not dictate the relationship that you have with your children. And some children's mothers are bitter. I didn't hurt it all. Some of them are bitter. Some of them, are mean. Some of them are trying to keep me away. Like, I didn't hurt it all. I didn't hurt every excuse in the book in terms of why fathers cannot be present for their children. And none of it excuses it, because at the end of the day, it is your child who is suffering from your inability to commit to them, to their relationship, to their healing, to their well being, to their protection. So you can be a father without being in a sexual or physical relationship with the mother. Co parenting can be done if you both are committed to raising healthy, balanced, stable, secure children that need love, validation, and protection. You got to commit to it. No matter what is going on, if you make that commitment, then you won't be the catalyst or the reason for your child to be damaged, to enter into toxic relationships, to have to heal from daddy wounds. The fourth, forgiveness. So we have to start working through a process of forgiveness, and it's not necessarily for your father. You don't ever have to truly have a conversation with him. Dad, why did you leave? Why did you do this? Why did I forget? You don't have to have that conversation. Work through the power and the energy of forgiveness for yourself so you can stop holding on to this expectation of your father being something that he was unable to do for whatever reason. For whatever reason, he was unable to be what you wanted or thought you wanted or needed in a father. And what for whatever reason that is it has to be separated. It has to be, like, okay, I need to heal. I need to heal. And so it has to be, you have to be that radical. Like, okay, I hear all of that, but I have to heal. And the way that you heal is you find forgiveness. And you find that forgiveness within yourself. You find that forgiveness within yourself for creating these stories and narratives about why you're not lovable, or why, your dad didn't want to stay, or why your mom did what she did and now dad isn't there and I don't have a dad. We create all of these stories. And so that all of those stories, that energy, it all needs to heal. One of the biggest breakthroughs I had in my life personally was 10 years ago when I did the work around healing my father's wound. Well, now stepfather, but that's another story. By healing that wound. And the way I did it was I had to come to the realization that he did the best that he could. It wasn't good enough. It was, all of the things that we tied to it. He couldn't do no better. It was what it was. And I have to let that go. I have to let go of this. We have this fantasy, this idea of what our lives could have been like if our daddies were present, if our daddies loved us, if they, we have all of this. It's like, no, stop. That is not the reality of it. This person, for whatever reason, was not able to do they weren't able to make that commitment. you know they probably were dealing with their own traumas, dealing with their own wounding from their fathers, because this shit is generational. Okay, so they were probably dealing with whatever it was that they were going through or experiencing, their own mama and daddy issues, so on and so forth. It was not about you. And so you have to divest from that way of thinking, really center yourself in that work of forgiveness. And again, it is for you, not for the other person, for you. And I have a course in Journey University, shameless plug, but nonetheless, I do have a course in Journey University that teaches you how to work through the power of forgiveness. And so I will definitely link to that, provide a link to that course in the um, in the description. And so to kind of wrap it up. Well, you know what? Let me pause before I wrap it up. I'm just going to go to um, the comments and just see if I have any live comments. Anything anybody want to chat about or put in the comments. And so to wrap it up, one of the most toxic wounds that we carry within our bodies, both men and women, are unhealed daddy wounds. And these wounds can last a lifetime and be transmitted to the next generation. And it goes from generation to generation to generation. So let's begin to do that work, to do that necessary work, to acknowledge and heal those suppressed wounds so we can interrupt these cycles of generational trauma. so we can heal our mother wounds and so we can heal our father wounds. Again, the two most primal wounding that we carry within our bodies. And so, if you want to continue this discussion or if something has been triggered in you and you need more clarity or guidance, I do offer one on one life coaching, spiritual life coaching sessions where we can talk more specifically about your particular situation. So, you can always go to my website, journeytowholeness.org, and get more information, or email me at kdavis at journeytowholeness.org. And I strongly encourage you check out that course on forgiveness in Journey University, and go back. If you didn't see my live video about healing mother wounds, it's so very important that you check that out as well. And so I thank you all for sharing this space with me. I am sending you love and blessings. Until next time.